Erin Edgar, Attorney and Counselor at Law, Overcoming with a Purpose, Part 2. This is Daily Dose of Daryl Viewers Digest, May 23rd through May 29th, 2022. Look in the information section and you'll find the places where you can fast forward to any day at your convenience. We have QR codes for both the website and the channel. Erin Edgar is a special attorney and counselor at law with a great heart. This is part 2. Continuing with Erin with estate planning. Does everyone do this?
I know some people do this and some don't. Do you have any idea about how many people actually create these estate plans, and how many don't? And like, if for the ones that don't, why don't they?
Sure. So in the last U.S. Census that was conducted, there was a statistic that said, I believe it was the last census, a statistic that said that 75% of people surveyed had not created a will. And another statistic that I found someplace, I'm not sure where, that was relatively recent within the past few years, said that 80% of people had not created any kind of healthcare directive or financial directive to protect them in case they could no longer make decisions for themselves. And those are two very important statistics. There are some reasons why people don't do this. First of all, they don't understand that it's very important to do. Second of all, they don't believe that they're old enough or sick enough. They always think, well, I'll be healthy all of my life. And then, oh my gosh, my mom is in the hospital. No one can pay her bills, or no one can approve her medical decisions but her. The hospital's got this choice and the family has to make it, and we're all in disagreement. She never did anything. Now it's an emergency. So people don't act until it's an emergency because we believe, I will include myself there until recently, until a couple of years ago, we believe that we will live forever, that we'll never need this. We're healthy now. We don't think about the future in that big picture way.
Right. And so as you look at this, can you think of maybe 2 or 3 immediate benefits, like maybe in the order of importance that this estate planning can supply right now to everyone?
Sure. So let me talk about a couple of pain points and then translate them into benefits. So people don't understand a lot of things, and I addressed a couple of them. First of all, if you have children, who will take care of them when you're no longer alive? Because that's going to happen. Your children may still be children. They may be under the age of 18. What would happen to them? What would that look like? And the answer is a court would have to decide, and it takes a while, and your children would probably be placed with close kin. They may be in other states or something. It may not be ideal, and it may be hard on the children. So addressing that, even if it's just addressing it in your will, is very important because it helps people understand what you wanted. And although, a court might make the final decision because the will does go through the court process, it's less protracted, it takes less time, and your intention is there to guide the judge, and there's relatively little reason, unless the person that you intend is a terrible person, there's relatively little reason that the judge would disagree with that. The second reason, and again, this is, upon your death, which can occur at any time, by the way. The second reason is, what's going to happen to all of your money, especially the money that you have as a separate, piece of property. It's a separate account. Those accounts are frozen. Someone's going to have to be appointed to manage those accounts, and that may take some time. The proceeds from your estate will not be given to the people you might want. If you have no will, they're just going to go to people who are related to you by bloodline. That's not necessarily the folks you would want. A spouse doesn't get provided for very well at all or immediately, like you would think. there are some ways that that happens, but you have to know what they are. And you're just basically thrown into this complex bureaucracy for 2 years or more while it's all settled. If you have a will, again, that process is taken down a lot. Your intentions are laid out. You know who you want to inherit from you. And again, although it goes through court, unlike some other estate planning, a will does that. Although it goes through, public record, your intentions are there to guide everything. And that's very important. Also, during your life, as I said, something may happen to you and you may be unable to manage your finances. You may be unable to manage your property, any property that you own, really. Or you may be sick and unable to make your own medical decisions. Who's going to do that for you? If you don't have documents in place stating whom you want to do that, your family is going to stand there and argue. And if you're sick and it's a highly emotionally charged situation, people are going to say things they don't mean. They will get upset. They will get mad. And that will impact decisions that are made. So all in all, what this does, these planning things give you the peace of mind to know that your intentions are out there in the world. People know what they are. They know why you decided the ways that you decided in a lot of cases. And they're there to be honored. And you know that your illness and death will be treated as you would want, and that your loved ones would be treated as you would want.
Everyone wants to be a do-it-yourself person these days. Is that wise when it comes to estate planning?
But I've learned that TGIF, what that means, and TMI, and what that means, too much information. And then I came along and I found out there's a DIY. And I said, what is DIY? And people said, that's do it yourself. And what I've realized is our society now, because of YouTube and Google and all of these sharing of information, whether they're good or bad, it's out there. And that a lot of people now try to DIY, do it yourself, either because they think they want to save money, or whatever it is. And can you sort of give us some information about why perhaps someone needs to come to you or another real life attorney, or maybe just come to this online thing and try to DIY it themselves?
Yeah, there's a plethora. It's one of my favorite words. There's plenty of companies that will do what they call estate planning for you. Simple wills, God forbid, a simple trust. They are out there. And I will share with you my experience with this type of service. It is only as good as your understanding. So, and emotionally, it's probably not the best thing either. And I will separate those two. So I had a client come to me and she said, I want you to help me with my estate planning. I went and did it myself. I did it on LegalZoom. I paid $250 for it. I don't remember what it was. I don't know if I did it right. I don't know if it really says what I want. And first of all, she didn't understand the document that was created for her, the verbiage in it. And she felt like there was stuff missing, but she didn't know what it was. It just didn't feel right. Intuitively, she could sense that it didn't feel right. Or that she didn't know if she designated the right people to act for her. She didn't understand. So that's one thing. You get in these systems, and these robots basically are asking you questions, and you answer in the best way you're able. You may not really understand the question or the deep import that the question has. Who would you want to handle your medical affairs if you are unable to? Well, okay, I'm going to say my Aunt Jane, but is my Aunt Jane really the right person? I love my Aunt Jane. I want her to help me out. But people don't really consider she is older than you. She may predecease you, actually probably will. She's in another state. That may cause some delay in the provision of medical services to you if people have to consult her. Also, did you tell the system to put her address and phone number in there so that she can be quickly consulted. All these things that a real life attorney guides you through, those systems really don't. And they say, well, they're prepared by attorneys. They may be prepared by attorneys, the actual documents. However, the attorneys are going on what you put in the system. And they're not really asking you those deep questions to get at who is really the best person. We can go through your options, and of course, the attorney is going to do what you want at the end of the day. But it's the attorney's job to be the guide and take you through all of the options and basically give you a big picture and very detailed small picture scenario at the same time of what could happen. Those systems don't do that. And essentially, you're paying a very small amount for a document that may not do what you want. And you won't know if it does what you want or not unless you have it reviewed. And I will tell you, I've reviewed many of those over the course of my time in practice. And people will say to me, really? I didn't know that's what I wrote in there. I just answered the questions. I didn't know that's what that meant. So that is one reason, a real life person is going to guide you through all the choices. The second reason is that a robot that is preparing your documents has no emotional intelligence. We've heard the phrase emotional intelligence. It started becoming popular in the 80s. I didn't hear it until the early 2000s, but whatever. Talk about learning curves. And what it basically means is there's a person there. That person, if they are empathetic and have a good heart, and some attorneys do, some attorneys don't have a good bedside manner, but those of us who've been in the profession a while and who are very compassionate people understand that this is an uncomfortable topic. It is not something to make quick decisions about. And it is something that people are very afraid of. And so in our interviewing, whether we tell people this or not, and the best attorneys don't, they just guide the people and with gentleness and forthrightness at the same time, which is a very difficult skill. But we are there, whether we tell people or not, we are there to act as counselors, not therapists, counselors. And a counselor is someone who holds space during a meeting for those very uncomfortable emotional conversations. That's what a counselor does. And we are counselors at law. And when I took that as part of my oath for practicing law and swore to uphold that, an attorney and counselor at law, what I was doing and what I have set out to do is be someone who can hold the space for those uncomfortable conversations to guide people in the best way possible with sufficient depth to ensure that the decisions that they make align with their deeper intentions for their life and death. And those DIY programs do not do that.
Are there services that a real person can provide that a do-it-yourself program can't?
So after death, and I'll use my own experience as an example. After my grandmother's death, my father and uncle were designated in her will as the people who were going to manage her estate. Father, it may have just been my uncle, I don't know. It was one of the two. My father kept having to go up and do stuff, so it may have been both. But that is something that when someone dies, people don't know what to do. And they didn't really know what they were doing. Luckily, she had an attorney that was kind of advising the family and agreed to help them through the process after death to make sure that everyone was distributed in the way that her estate document said, and that the person handling that was someone that she trusted. That process has a legal term. It's called probate. And it's, as I intimated before, when you die and you get a death certificate, there is more bureaucracy that happens after that. The court system needs to be notified, and then someone is appointed to manage your affairs, and then all the people that, you know, the government and other people that you have maybe debts against need to be notified, and then it just keeps going on. And this bureaucracy is not meant to be a hindrance. It's meant to protect you, the person who has died, from fraud. It's meant to protect you from just any person down the street, maybe your neighbor, coming in and taking stuff that belonged to you, taking your money, having money that you owned go to the Department of Unclaimed Property because no one knows what to do with it, you know, and on, although I doubt that would ever happen. People would take it first. So this process is meant to protect you, and it's a public process for that very reason. There are ways to make it less public. There are documents that can be prepared as a service to you to make the process minimally invasive, if you will. Some people want that privacy, but those are services that an attorney can help you through that process, because it's very confusing. The court system does provide some guidance, but people still come to me even if the court gives them that guidance and say, I still don't know what to do, please help me. It's very stressful to the family, and an attorney can take that emotional stress away from you by either performing some tasks for you or just guiding you through that process.
Some people are young and don't have much. Can you speak about that situation?
I sure can. You have something that is very precious. You have your life. You have your life here on this earth, and that is certainly worth protecting, because even if you don't have a lot of property or money or things in your own name, you rent your home, whatever, even if you don't have that, you have your life. And that is something that services like powers of attorney, living wills, that kind of thing, that helps protect you as a person and your life here on this earth, and helps get your intentions out there regarding, you know, your medical treatment and how you want your bank accounts that you do have handled, bills paid, etc. Who's going to do that for you when you can't? Who are the people that you trust? You have your life and you have your personal connections. Those are just as much in need of protection as any money or assets that you may have. And though, you know, that money, those assets, they get passed on in a will. And wills are very generic. You know, wills don't have to be they don't have to be specific. You don't have to even own a lot of things in order to make a will. I just want all my property passed to my wife if she survives me, and then to my kids, you know, and specify the shares, and you don't have to specify the property. Now, that being said, it's important to know what you have, so we know what your federal estate tax would be, if any. So when we talk with clients, pretty much every attorney around will go through a list of your assets and liabilities for that very reason. And this not only is important to show you where you are now, but it's important to show you how you can grow. So this process is not about keeping you at the level you are now. It's about planning for your growth and expansion, and also protecting your very precious life.
My why and my purpose.
The why really to me means like a purpose, your real reason for being. And how does that translate into estate planning?
That's an interesting question. When I was very young, now it's May the 4th, so I should say May the 4th be with you today. When I was very young, though, Star Trek: The Next Generation was out, and it was the most amazing thing I had ever watched. This really does relate, I promise. My dad and I watched it every Sunday. It was our bonding time from 6 to 7 p.m. And one of the most amazing things about that show was about Star Trek, all iterations really, but about what I was watching at the time was the diversity that was expressed there through all these, you know, bonkers aliens, even the Borg, who were mean. But all the diversity that is expressed there and the way that people can not only triumph over it, but also sort of, they all win, like they all get something. That to me was the beauty of it. They all worked together and they all got something. It may not have been what they all wanted, but it was basically a win-win situation on most episodes, even the ones that were creature features. And so I got that attitude of sort of, diversity is important in whatever way expressed. You are an important human being on this earth. And, you know, if you have a special need or not, you deserve to be here, whatever race, skin color, gender, anything. And you deserve to live a full and happy life. And number two, I believe it's so important for people to express themselves, like stand in their intentions, understand what they want, and also understand that there are other people who may be affected by that, who deserve nonetheless to know what your intentions are. And to a large extent, that will make us better able to work together when we all know where we stand with one another. And so when I went into law school, I initially thought I wanted to work in the Foreign Service. Boy, was I disabused of that notion real fast. It wasn't in a bad way. It was basically, I started taking courses that made me realize that there were problems in the community right here in North Carolina, in my local town, and beyond, that I could help with, that were just as important as the problems on the international stage, if not more important. And so I got out of law school. I did some other things before I got licensed, and one of those was to work in the area of conflict resolution. And I helped people resolve their conflicts for a while in mediation. And what it occurred to me that most of the time people didn't know that there was a conflict, or if there was a conflict, the main reason was because people weren't talking to each other, or didn't really know each other, or didn't understand what the other person wanted. And so once I became a licensed attorney, and after I'd worked for some years, I had a death in the family. And through this death, we all realized that because her estate plan was 20 years out of date, we didn't know whether she had different intentions or not. We thought she did, but they weren't in her plan, and she was dead now. We couldn't ask her. She'd gone on to the great beyond, bigger and better things. You know, we couldn't ask her what she wanted for us all here. We had to go by the document, because we all wanted to avoid court, a litigation that would take everything from the estate, all the money, probably affect the family business, etc. So I decided, when I went out on my own and to my own firm, I decided two things. Number one, everyone is deserving of legal services, and everyone is deserving of thriving and prosperity, even, you know, whether or not you have a special need. And also, I never, if I can help it, want any family that I serve to go through what my family did. That pain of not knowing what someone's intentions are, if it can be avoided. And in my profession, it's very easy to avoid that. You have your estate plan reviewed every 3 or 4 years after you make one.
A, you watch Star Wars movies, and B, you do bird watching. Explain to me the bird watching.
Of course. And actually, the more correct term these days is birding.
Okay.
The Audubon Society, the Cornell Lab of Ornithology, and most organizations in the world have now woken up to the fact that you can tell what birds are by their sound. And in fact, can identify more birds by sound than by sight, because a lot of birds want to be hidden. They stay hidden in the branches or in the marsh or wherever. So that is how a totally blind person can engage in that activity, by sound. And so for me personally, I was in law school and I was so bored. It's not a fun experience. It's actually a very jaded, it makes you very jaded if you're not doing something to bring it into concrete focus, especially for someone like me who learns by doing things. I was very bored. And so one of the things I did was sign up for a course from the Cornell Lab of Ornithology. I don't remember what it was called, but it was like birding by ear or something. And basically back then it was cassette tapes. We got cassette tapes of bird sounds and like going on an imaginary bird walk and things. And that's how I got my start in that. But that is something that gets me out into nature, gives me a purpose. I'm not one of these people that just goes on hikes for the fun of it. Gets me out into nature and gives me a purpose to be there, and is really clicks in with my musical side because I'm a musician as well.
I want to be the one to announce to the world that you, very soon, I believe, are going to be singing in a little dive in New York, I think, called the Carnegie Hall or something like that. Is that right?
that little hole in the wall there,
yeah,
in Midtown New York. Yes, I got a very surprising opportunity. It came, I think, in late November, early December, to sing at Carnegie Hall in June of this year. I happened to be a member of the North Carolina Master Chorale Singers, and we sing with the North Carolina Symphony. And there are some very talented folks in that group. A lot of professional musicians. One of those professional musicians has composed a piece of music that is going to be performed there, and he was in need of singers and musicians to go with him. Being a performer at Carnegie Hall is one of those dreams I had when I was a child, and I am not a professional musician or singer. I did not want that kind of a life for myself. However, that being said, I've sung all my life and to some extent played instruments, although singing is where I concentrate most of my musical ability. And so being a member of this North Carolina Master Chorale, he put out an email to the whole listserv, basically, and said, who wants to do this? And within 5 minutes, I had answered and said, I'll do it. I'm not sure how I'm going to afford it, where the money's going to come from, how I'm going to get there. Like, none of that was decided. But I said, I will do it. It's been a dream of mine, and I never thought it would happen. I'm not really special or anything professionally. So in my brain, that was all the people that could perform there. So that was just amazing. And I'm looking forward to that.
How do you do the day in and day out duties day after day? How do you manage that?
So I have a couple of methods. First of all, my computer has a program on it that will translate text into speech, and it's far from perfect. Also, that same program will translate things into Braille if you have the appropriate technology. And I'm fortunate enough to be able to have something that will allow me to read Braille on my computer. So I'm fortunate to have those methods of working. And there are some things that I cannot do, like I can't read a handwritten document. Just don't bother sending me that. I won't be able to read it or interact with it at all. That being said, pretty much anything that others do, I can do as well, if it's related to a computer. So
excellent.
My job is pretty much computer based, and that's how I've evolved it.
Wisdom advice. Sum it all up for us.
If you could give some advice to the people that watch my Daily Dose of Daryl YouTube channel, that would be from your heart and something that would help everyone, sighted, not sighted, whatever it is, visually impaired or whatever, just from the heart, a piece of wisdom that you could give to the audience, to sum it up, what would it be?
You always have enough to be the best person you can be and to provide for those you love. So you always have enough time, you always have enough money, you always have enough life, and everything that you have is worth being here. Just by being here, God has put us on this earth, and automatically we are God's children, whether or not you believe in God as God or have another name. And we are all worth. We all have innate worth. Whatever abilities we have, whatever race we are, whatever gender we are, however much money we have in the bank. And it's our job here on this earth to max that out. Do whatever we can to max out our worth and make a difference in the world and to those people that we love. That's from Dr. Joseph Murphy, but I think it's pretty good advice.
Yeah, but somebody had to hear it and had to remember it, and that was you. And it comes from your heart, I can tell.
Yes, absolutely.
And I want to thank you from the bottom of my heart. We've never met in person, but I know your spirit, and I know you better than some people that I've met in person. And I can only say good things about you and recommend you highly to others.
Well, thank you, Daryl. And I will say the same to you. I have always admired you and what you do with your life now. And enjoyed every time we have gotten together and your humor and the joyfulness that I perceive in you. So thank you very much for having me here today.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you.
Saturday Summary. Saturday Summary. Make a decision to plan your future and consider the results if you do or if you don't. Get with a caring person and not an impersonal program. Develop a long-term vision before, during, and after life major events. This is a need that applies to all living people, no matter the age or assets. Learn to apply your purpose to all of your life's events and experiences. Develop ways to handle all of life's challenges and the day in and day out duties. And to sum it all up, remember that you are enough. You have enough of what you need to maximize your worth and your potential. Your worth is a gift from your Creator. Let's celebrate that in our lives every day. Sunday Silence. What decision have you made this week to help you with events in your future? Pause and reflect. In what ways have you moved toward developing relationships with real people more than machines this week? Pause and reflect. What have you done this week to develop a long-range view of your life and its needs? Pause and reflect. What plans have you made this week to help you with survivors when you're no longer able to make those decisions on your own? Pause and reflect. In what ways do you allow your purpose to be applied to all of your life's events? Pause and reflect. What challenges this week have you learned to overcome and manage in the day in and day out duties? Pause and reflect. What is your favorite piece of wisdom for approaching life with all of the challenges that come? Pause and reflect. This is Darryl Peebles, the man behind the microphone, bringing you something every day positive, personal, and professional from the Peebles Motivation Bureau. All three divisions, digital, real life, and print divisions, are active now and available for you. Remember, local order books, contact me directly, and I can save you some money. There are also people already reading this book and doing the journey. It's helping them. Group discounts and special gifts for pastors are available, and I appreciate you, your ideas, and your support every day. Other areas that I'm involved in are right here, and my contact points are located here. This is Daily Dose of Darryl, responding to the free and gracious gift of God I am, using humor, the art of illusion, modern technology, and decades of serving God and communities to work every day to uncover the beauty in all people and experiences coming my way, endeavoring to educate, entertain, and inspire. Each dose on this channel can help move us toward a better, healthier, and more informed mind, body, and spirit. I'm excited to be a small part of the expanding of our capacity to learn, love, and forgive, and together leave this world a better place for all. God bless you.